They say the forest remembers every footstep, but none more than those of an old hound who once ran like thunder. And on the night our story begins, that forest waited, breath held, shadows still, as a forgotten hero limped back onto the path where his legend was born. Once the hound had been the pride of his master, swift as wind, sharp as frost, fearless as fire. He could corner a boar alone, track a deer across frozen riverbeds, and return before dawn as if he'd never broken a sweat. Whole villages whispered stories about him. Children carved his shape into tree bark. Hunters toasted his name. But years have a way of stealing strength quietly, the way winter steals the color from leaves. One morning, the hound woke and found that his legs trembled where they once flew. His nose no longer followed scents with crisp certainty. He stumbled on fallen branches he used to dance over. And though he tried, every breath made it clearer. He was no longer the dog he once had been. His master noticed, at first with concern, then with impatience, and finally with cold practicality. Food grew scarce. Hunts grew harder. Each failure carved a little more space between them until eventually the master made a choice. He left the hound behind. No harsh words, no farewell, just a tether unknotted. And footsteps fading down a trail the hound could no longer follow. But loyalty is a strange and stubborn thing. The old hound didn't lie down to die. He pulled himself up, one aching joint at a time, and began the long, punishing walk into the deep woods, because he'd scented something on the air that morning. Something the master had missed. Danger. A boar, massive, wounded, unpredictable, had wandered close to the hunting trail. A beast that could kill a man before he even raised his spear. The master didn't know, but the hound did. And so, moving like a ghost through the trees, he followed the trail. His chest burned. His paws throbbed, but he pressed on, driven by a memory older than pain, the bond of a hunter and his dog. He reached the clearing just as the boar lunged from the undergrowth. There was no time to bark, no time to warn, only time to act. With the last of his strength, the hound hurled himself between the beast and his former master. Teeth met hide, tusks met flesh. The world spun in a blur of dust and snarls, and the echo of a man shouting his dog's name, the name he hadn't spoken in months. When the struggle ended, the boar lay still, and the hound lay beside it, sides heaving, vision flickering like a dying lantern flame. The master fell to his knees. For the first time in years, he saw not the broken dog he'd abandoned, but the companion who had once chased Dawn beside him, who had guarded his campfire, who had trusted him long after trust stopped making sense. Gently, trembling, he lifted the old hound into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I forgot who you were." The hound closed his eyes, not in fear, not in pain, but in peace. Because at last, the forest remembered him, and so did the master he had never stopped loving. And the man carried him home. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow.